Okay, this video is going to get us started with Chapter 5 in our textbook, and it is regarding methods. And more specifically, it's going to be regarding methods from the Java library for today. And so a method, first of all, is a sequence of instructions with a name. So a method is a sequence of instructions with a name. So if we were to look at a situation here where whenever we write programs, when a programmer writes the source code, this source code is actually instructions to the computer, and so the computer knows what to do. So for example, here the computer, after reading this code, which actually, remember, the source code gets converted to bytecode, which gets converted to machine code, which can be read by the computer processor, and these are instructions. And so the computer then knows that it needs to declare this and set up this scanner object named scan. Here the compiler knows, okay, I've got to set up a memory location, reserve a memory location named a roll score as an int, and I need to store a 0 in it. So all these are instructions that are going on, and these are instructions for what we call the main method. All right, so this is the main method. Its body goes from here to here. So all of these are instructions that are being carried out, being executed as part of the main method. And so if we look further here, whoops. All right, so every Java program has a method named main. Okay, it's named main, M-A-I-N. The main method automatically starts when a program is run. So when you click on start or click on run, the main method automatically clicks into gear and starts carrying out all of its instructions. So all of these instructions here are started to be carried out because this is the main method. And so when the main method is done, well, the program is done. So when the main method is done, the program is done. The main method starts the program and lets you know when it's done, when it's finished. There is a bunch of methods in the Java library. Number 3, there's a bunch of methods in the Java library that are available for programmers to use. These methods are written by Java people, Java programmers, for other people to use. So when you download Java onto your program, onto your computer, you have access to the Java library, which we've talked about before. And in the Java library are these methods that we can call on to use in our programs to make them more efficient and give us more things that we can do. Now, so we have used, of course, some of these methods. So in this 3A, I need you to make a list of a couple of the methods. Well, let's look here. A method, by the way, and maybe I should say this first. Let's look at 3B before we go to 3A. Methods are easily recognized by a name and a set of parentheses. Okay, you can recognize a method by a name and a set of parentheses. Now, when you see a name and a set of parentheses, that doesn't automatically mean every time that it's a method, but most of the time that's what it is. So a method will have that, though. And so as we look at in here, then where are our methods? So write down, here's a method right in here. Here's the println method. You have the name of the method, and then you have a set of parentheses. Here's another one. We have a scan.nextInt method. Scan.next is the name, and it's prior to or precedes the parentheses. So that's how you can recognize these these methods that we've used. And so there, of course, there's scan.next double and different things like that. We've used math.abs and then parentheses, math.abs in parentheses, which calculates or returns the absolute value of a numeric expression. And so anyways, we've used these methods in here. So let's move on. If I get this to work. So you should have that list of what we just went over in 3A. Now okay, we did that. We will be writing our own methods, however, during this chapter. So today is just about methods that are coming from the Java library, some that are already built in. And so, but we are going to be rewriting our own methods during this chapter. You, let's see, what do we want to say here? You call a method. Okay, you call a method by its name. Okay, you call a method by its name in order to execute its instructions. You call a method by its name in order to execute its instructions. And so, how does that happen? Well, so when you write the code scan.nextInt parentheses, when the compiler gets to this line of code, then it calls on the scan.nextInt method. All right, and then the scan.nextInt executes its instructions, and its instructions have to do with reading what the user, recognizing and reading what the user typed when they entered their score of their role. All right, so that it's been called into action by writing its name and having those parentheses. So you call in the important words, important vocabulary relating to the methods. So the first one is a method call. That's going to be a huge word that we'll use often, and you've got to know what it is. If you don't, you're going to be pretty much lost the entire chapter. So A is a method call. It contains the method name followed by a set of parentheses. Where have you heard that before? So the method call contains the method name followed by a set of parentheses. And so we showed that earlier, where we showed this is a method call. That's what it does. It calls the method, which then executes its instructions. That's not what I wanted. And then you have the next one in B is a method name. The method name, the name of a method, follows the same conventional format as a variable name. So it starts with lowercase and has camel casing. The method name precedes the parentheses, okay, which you've already mentioned several times. So the method name precedes the parentheses. C, the third thing is arguments. Arguments are values within the parentheses of a method call. They're values within the parentheses of a method call. And these values then are used by the method. And so if you don't have those values in there, then the method can't do what it's instructed to do. Now, not every method call has values within the parentheses. And so they apparently are not needed. So here's an example. Scan.nextInt method. There is nothing in the parentheses. There are no arguments in the parentheses. Here's the println method. Well, it has something in here. It has a string. It has a variable call, a string, and a variable call. So it needs these things in here in order to print or display output what it's supposed to do. So this is what whatever you put inside here is going to be used by in this case, the println method, and display this on the screen. And then you have D is you have a return value. So not every method has a return value, but return values are very common. And a method, however, can only have one return value. You can't call a method and have it return multiple values. It only returns one. So let's look at the example of a method call and all that. Right here, we're going to take our terms that we've learned up here and we're going to apply them to specifically to code. So I need you to write down, label this example here. So obviously then we have, by looking at here at this code down here, you should be able to tell me what the name of the method is. The method name precedes the parentheses. Here's your set of parentheses, and so this right here is the method name. So this is what you should indicate. This is the method name. The other thing that you should know is that the method call, another thing you should label here is that the method call is this entire thing. The method call has the name of the method, and then it's got a set of parentheses, which may or may not be empty. All right, so this whole thing right here is the method call. The other thing that we have in here is we have arguments. So it's got two arguments in this case. So we saw the scan.nextInt method didn't have any arguments. This math.pow does have arguments, and there's two of them. When you have multiple arguments, you separate them by commas. And then the other thing is you have a return value. And so with math.pow, what that means is, and we don't see the specific instructions. All that we are doing is by writing this code is we're calling on the math.pow method to do what it's supposed to do, which we understand it to do this, is to take 2, the first number, and raise it to the second number's power. So the 2 to the third power, which you recognize is 8. So what will happen, the return value is an 8. So that's why we put the value up there. It's just like when we are in variable calls. I tell you, when you're tracing code, write the value name. So if the num of roles is 3, that's the value of that variable, then write that. So it'll say your total score for 3 roles is, and maybe your total score is 16. So it calls for the values of those variable names. So it's the same kind of an idea. So let's see, I probably should erase that and go back to here. And so the return value in this case then now you read this without the math.pow, because now you have a return value. So double result is assigned 8. That means you have a memory location whose name is result. It's already been declared or has been reserved in the computer memory, and then you take that return value and you assign it to that variable, its memory location, which that's all that a variable is, and there you have it. So you have your return value of that method being stored in a variable. All right, so that is it for the intro to methods.